Mountains Episcopal Church of Stowe. Welcome, Reverend.
Thank you. Madam Lieutenant Governor, senators, guests, it is an honor to be with you in person once again. I invite those who are able to please stand. In peace we gather this day, knowing not all people know peace. In hope we gather this day, knowing not all people have hope. In thanksgiving we gather this day, knowing not everyone can give thanks for all they face. Guide this Senate in the ways of peace, hope, and thanksgiving, that all they do and say, and the laws, resolutions, and declarations that they enact will be a beacon to the world thirsty for tranquility and peace. We offer this prayer and hope for the senators of this great state of Vermont, leaning on the strength of your love, O God. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Are there any announcements this morning? We do have two referrals under Rule 31. S-195, an act relating to the certification of mental health peer support specialists affecting the revenues of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Finance. S-214, an act relating to valuation of timeshare projects, which carries an appropriation or requires an expenditure of funds under Rule 31, is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. We do have a joint resolution to take up at this time, JRH 18, joint resolution relating to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which was introduced on March 9th by Representative Bohovsky of Essex and others, and was read and adopted by the House on the same day. Please listen to the reading of the resolution by title only.
JRH 18, joint resolution relating to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Now you've heard the reading of the resolution. The resolution will be treated like a bill and referred to the Committee on Government Operations. We do have one House bill for reference, H-680, an act relating to obtaining a marriage license in any town in Vermont. It passed the House on March 9th, and it was introduced by Representative Graham of Orange. Please listen to the first reading of H-680.
H-680, an act relating to obtaining a marriage license in any town in Vermont.
Now you've heard the first reading of H-680, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. This does bring us to the orders of the day. We'll begin today with S-30 and the veto override vote. I will read for this chamber the script explaining the process. On February 22nd, 2022, the Honorable Philip B. Scott, Governor, vetoed S-30, an act relating to prohibiting possession of firearms within hospital buildings, and returned it to the Senate and submitted a message explaining his objections to the bill. A copy of the veto message is contained on today's calendar at page 838, and a copy of the bill as passed by the Senate and House is on page 840 of today's calendar. Authority of the governor to veto a bill passed by both houses of the General Assembly is found in Section 11 of Chapter 2 of the Vermont Constitution. Section 11 reads as follows. Every bill which shall have passed the Senate and House of Representatives shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the governor. If the governor approve the governor shall sign it. If not, the governor shall return it with objections in writing to the House in which it shall have originated, which shall proceed to reconsider it. If, upon such reconsideration, 2/3 of the members present of that House shall pass the bill, it shall, together with the objections, be sent to the other House, Senate, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of the members present of that House, it shall become law. But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be taken by the yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for or against the bill shall be entered in the journal of each House respectively. By reason of the wording of Section 11 of Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the State of Vermont, the Senate is obligated to reconsider the bill. The question that you will be voting on is as follows. Shall the bill pass, notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? A yea vote is a vote to override the governor's veto. A nay vote is to sustain the governor's veto. As required by the Constitution, the vote will be by roll call. 2/3 of the members who are present must pass the bill over the objections of the governor. Otherwise, the veto of the governor will be sustained. In the event that 2/3 of the members present do not vote to pass the bill, it will then be transmitted to the House together with the governor's objections for consideration by that body. In the event that the governor's veto is sustained by the Senate, then the House will not have to reconsider it. The question before the Senate is debatable. Upon conclusion of the debate, the secretary will call the roll. Again, the question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. By voting to override S30, the Senate is sending a clear message to the governor that we are serious about gun safety legislation. And we will continue to push on issues that we know will save lives. It was our intention to finally close a dangerous loophole known as the Charleston loophole, which is why the Senate stands by its work on S30. We will continue in future to work with our counterparts in the other body and with the governor on gun safety legislation, but we felt it was incredibly important for us to take a stand today and say we believe the work that we did on S30 is the right path. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I second the words of the pro tem. I wanted to add, and senators may know this already, but we will be taking two actions today with regard to gun safety. They are linked and they are both important. The first, as was just spoken about, is the override. This body has twice passed legislation that would completely close the Charleston loophole. We did it the first time in the waiting period bill, and we did it with S30. What the governor has asked of us is specifically not to close the Charleston loophole, but to reduce it by half. I will, when I report S4, I will talk about the reasons why the Judiciary Committee voted in favor of the governor's offer, because I believe on the whole that offer makes sense. But to reiterate what the pro tem said, I think it is important in terms of gun safety, where you're dealing potentially with human lives, that the Senate reiterate what it has said definitively on two occasions, which is that the Charleston loophole must be closed. We won't be doing that perhaps this year, but as soon as we can, we should do that. And I believe the Senate should restate that clearly. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? Again, the question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant,
Yes.
Senator Baruch,
Yes.
Senator Benning. No. Senator Bray,
Yes.
Senator Brock. No. Senator Campion,
Yes.
Senator Chittenden,
Yes.
Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collimore,
No.
Senator Cummings,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hooker,
Yes.
Senator Ingle. No. Senator Kitchell, Senator Lyons,
Yes.
Senator McDonald,
Yes.
Senator Mazza,
Yes.
Senator McCormack,
Yes.
Senator Nitka,
No.
Senator Parent,
No.
Senator Pearson,
Yes.
Senator Perschlick,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
Senator Ron Hinsdale,
Yes.
Senator Sears,
Yes.
Senator Sorotkin,
Yes.
Senator Starr,
No.
Senator Terenzini,
No.
Senator Westman,
No.
Senator White,
Yes.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas 21, the nays 9. 2/3 of the members present having voted in favor of passage of the bill, the governor's veto has been overridden. We will now move on to H44. 444. Excuse me. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. We will be passing over H4.
Thank you. We will now move on to S4. An act relating to a 48-hour waiting period for firearms transfers, which was introduced on January 12th. It was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as appears on page 47 to 852 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of S.
S4, an act relating to a 24-hour waiting period for firearms transfers.
You've heard the second reading of the bill. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruch, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam President. May I speak to the strike all amendment?
You may.
I'll begin by saying that S4 is the new S30. So what you're seeing in the calendar on page 847 and following is S30 with one change. And that is the change that the governor insisted upon in terms of the Charleston loophole, which I'll get to in just a second. But everything in the bill is the same, including the title, which upon passage will become the title of S30 rather than the title that you see here. So with that said, when I reported S30, I talked about it having a long road. And obviously that road has gotten longer post-veto, but I want to clarify just how long that road has been. So in 2018, the governor signed S55 on the steps of the State House. Since that time, the Judiciary Committee has worked tirelessly on various pieces of policy that have twice been vetoed now. So much of what you're seeing in S4 has been vetoed twice. That is a testament, I think, to the persistence of the Judiciary Committee as well as the Senate in terms of forwarding issues of gun safety, which again are life and death in their scope. So with that said, when the governor announced that he was vetoing the bill, he made clear that there was, as he put it, a path forward. And I will confess that my reaction initially was not positive, to put it mildly. The governor had talked over the years about closing the Charleston loophole. And instead what he was saying is that what looked to me and still looks to me like narrowing the loophole, but leaving it open. And I'll explain what I mean. Under current law, if you go to a federal firearms licensed dealer and you put in a background check, after 3 business days, if a clean background check does not come back, there is a default proceed to give you a weapon. That is the Charleston loophole, the default proceed. In other words, if we're uncertain about whether you should have a gun, after 3 days, we're going to give it to you anyway. That's the problem with the Charleston loophole. The other problem is that the 3% of those applications that don't come back in 3 days are high in the number of people who actually have domestic violence problems as part of the reason why their background check is delayed. So it's a group of people that you don't want to have weapons, some of that 3%. So when the governor offered 7 business days as opposed to 3 business days, my initial reaction was to consider what we were not doing rather than what we were doing. But upon reflection, talking it over with the pro tem, the chair of Senate Judiciary, other members of the Senate, I began to have a different point of view on it. And that was, first of all, appreciation for what the governor was doing. And I will just state it because it's a rare occurrence. This governor is pre-agreeing to sign a gun safety bill. That hasn't happened in my memory. S-55 was not pre-agreed. There was some uncertainty ultimately about whether the governor would sign it. So I appreciate the governor's lack of drama and his clarity about what he wanted to do. The question remains, we just voted to override because we think it's important that the Charleston loophole be closed. So I think the question for those at home might be, why are we going along with the governor's approach? And I would say it ultimately boils down to civics. That is, the governor has a veto pen. And this governor has made it clear he would not go beyond 7 business days. And I believe the chair of Judiciary will be speaking to that point in a moment. But if you look at what S4 is, it is 6 sections. And the governor said unequivocally that he was fine with 5 of those. So we have 100% of 5/6 of the bill. What we're talking about is the difference between what we wanted, which was a complete closing of the Charleston loophole, and the 7 business days. I would put it in 5 words. 7 business days is safer than the status quo. So we would go under this bill from 3 business days for the default proceed to 7 business days, which is 9 calendar days. That, I believe, would significantly close the loophole, and it would probably eliminate most of that remaining 3%. With that said, that's 5.5 by my count out of 6. So in any other circumstance, we would consider that a win. And I believe we should consider it a win in this case. The other thing to remember is that this bill does other things, other urgent things besides close the Charleston loophole. It creates a statewide ban on firearms in hospitals, for instance. I will point out that a little over a week ago, someone was killed at the hospital complex in St. Johnsbury in the parking lot. But it is an indicator of the pressures that hospitals have been under, given the 2 epidemics we face, the opioid epidemic and the pandemic, and all of the strained tensions that has produced. So there are other things in this bill that have their own sense of urgency. And after the governor came forward with what he called the path forward, a number of the advocates for this bill, and they were many, you had a letter from 23 of them on S30. One of those was the CEO of the Vermont Hospital Association. And Madam President, if I might briefly quote.
May.
He wrote a very heartfelt letter about a friend of his who had taken his own life, a friend who was an activist on these issues. And in closing, he said, the good news is that Governor Scott identified a compromise at 7 business days. I think our lawmakers should take the governor up on his offer so we can do right by our healthcare heroes. Compromise means we don't all get what we want. In this case, there's an opportunity to protect hospital personnel and address the Charleston loophole in a reasonable way. Let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the very good on this one. And that had great weight with me, as I'm sure it did with others. So again, the governor, I think, made an offer that wasn't everything that we wanted, but Senate Judiciary was able to vote 4-1 in favor of S4. And I believe, maybe crazy for me to believe this, but I believe that this should get us close to unanimity in this chamber on this particular gun safety legislation. I know there are some people who will vote against it, but my hope is that we will be closer to unanimity because the governor has crafted a solution and told us beforehand that he can sign it. So with that said, I'll just finish by saying 2 things. One is that I appreciate the way the governor handled this. It shows that the gun safety debate does not have to be conducted at the top of our lungs. We can treat this like we treat other legislation. This codifies existing practice and strengthens existing law, and that's most of what we do in this chamber. So with that said, I will just note that I haven't gone through the bill because I so recently did it with S30, but I am open to any questions on any section of the bill. Again, our vote was 4-1 in favor, and we very much hope the Senate will agree. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary? The chair of the committee, Senator from Bennington, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to first say I appreciate the comments from the senator from Chittenden, the vice chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who's actually been a pleasure to work with on many of these issues. And when he was first appointed to the committee, I had my trepidation. Now, there's a lot in this bill. The ability for a person in the emergency room to feel safe that they don't have somebody sitting next to them with a gun on their shoulder. By banning that, I mean, if I go to the emergency room, bring my wife there for something, I don't want to have to also worry about whether somebody's going to shoot me. The section regarding the EUROPOs, or extreme risk protection orders, is extremely important. This gives our medical professionals the ability to not violate HIPAA by talking with law enforcement about someone whom they are very concerned of and should have the guns removed from that person. This actually is a request from the Bennington County emergency room physicians who dealt with a person, and they were lucky that they had the support of our local police chief, Paul Doucette, in talking the person and giving up the firearms. It could have been a disaster. It made threats to school personnel and so forth. He had been dismissed from his job. It could have been one of those horror stories. They were able to do it, but did they violate HIPAA? This makes clear they would not be. There's also a section on RFAs that we believe will help move that discussion forward and allow people judges to do what they think they might be able to do now, but are not sure, and it's inconsistent around the state. And that is removing firearms from persons who have a domestic violence complaint against them. You know, there are two major causes of fatalities with firearms from on. Number one is suicide. Number two is domestic violence. Unlike other states where you hear about this or that or the other thing, basically those two situations. That section, I applaud the governor for being willing to sign that section. It is not supported by many sports persons groups. This past weekend, I had a conversation with the governor's legal counsel to try to get to a point where we could agree to 15 days, business days. By the way, I hate business days because I never know what's a business day and what's not. The only way I know is if the mail doesn't show up. And so in that conversation, it became clear to me that the governor meant what he said. So I did have conversations with a senator from Chittenden about what we would do going forward. Would we go for 15 business days, which was one of the ideas that we had? Our judgment was, and we hope the Senate will follow suit, that it's better to have all of these parts of this bill into law, as the governor has committed, than to fight over a couple of days. Now, there may be problems, and we'll see what happens. But I think this is a good compromise. I appreciate the governor's willingness to go forward with other sections of this bill, which I wasn't sure of. And so I compliment the governor. I used to sit over there in one of those seats. And I can remember dealing with him, and he's always been above board and always been direct and a person of his word. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Madison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank my colleagues in the Judiciary Committee, especially the Senator from Chittenden, for his hard work on this bill. And I appreciate the fact that we are going to get a lot of the things that we want into law. I appreciate compromise and the ability to work across the branches to make progress on gun safety legislation. However, I remain really frustrated and concerned that we aren't truly closing the Charleston loophole, and that real people may be impacted by the fact that it's not fully closed. As the senator from Chittenden said, only 3% of background checks are not finished within 3 days, and the 3% are truly the most difficult. Either they have incorrect information in the application, or they are somebody who really should not have a gun because of past violence or domestic abuse. And those are the people that we want to really prevent from getting a firearm. And those are the people I'm concerned about, even if we do extend it by 7 days. I'm happy that we're getting more days. I truly, truly am, and I will vote for this bill. But I think we have much more work to do to make sure that we do everything we can to prevent gun violence in our state and our society, as we've seen it ramp up yet again with the frustrations and the anger and the stress of the last 2 years. So while I'll vote for this and while I'm happy for this compromise, I'm not happy that we did not truly close the Charleston loophole, and we have much more work to do. And I hope that my colleagues are committed to doing that work next session. Thank you, Madam President.
Are you ready for the question? The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Madam President, may I inquire of the presenter of the bill?
You may.
Madam President, as my colleagues may know, an emergency relief order lasts about 7 to 10 days until there's a hearing for a permanent relief from abuse order. The language, I'm grateful to say, and I raised this in our recent discussion on S30, speaks more to the immediate relinquishment of a firearm in such a case, I wonder if this mirrors the language for a permanent relief from abuse order.
Madam President, I would say that the language in a permanent relief from abuse order is the product of a hearing that happens after the emergency order, and it might be different depending on the circumstances, the fact pattern, the evidence presented at that hearing.
Madam President, my understanding is federal law requires that firearms be removed if a permanent relief from abuse order is issued. I wonder if that's the understanding of the reporter of the bill as well.
I don't know the answer to that, Madam President. We can take a momentary recess to find that out. But what I would say, I don't want to not answer the senator's question, but I know that during our discussion of S30, there was a desire to amend the language to produce greater certainty that weapons would not go to a third party that was connected to the person that was relinquishing the weapons. I will say that the Judiciary Committee at this point is not going to alter this bill because this is what the governor has agreed to sign. I did commit during the S30 discussion to working on that additional piece that the senator was interested in, if that's the import of the question.
Senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to